The alarm klaxon screamed through the corridors of the UES Defiant as Commander Lee Hanna rushed to the bridge. Her boots echoed against the metal floors while crew members ran past her, heading to their battle stations. Something was very wrong, report. She barked as the bridge doors slid open. The main screen showed the star map of the Kepler sector, but red warning lights flashed everywhere. Lieutenant Park Min-ho turned from his communication console, his face pale. Commander, we picked up a distress signal from the mining colony. On Zarian 7, they're under attack. Heavy bombardment. Civilian casualties mounting. Hana moved to the captain's chair, her mind racing. The mining colony had 3,000 people, mostly families of the workers. They had no military defenses. Just basic shields to protect against asteroids. How far? 2 hours at maximum speed, replied Navigator Kim Dae-yoon. But Commander, something feels wrong about this. Wrong how? Hannah asked, though she felt it too. In her 15 years of service, she had learned to trust her instincts. This felt like a trap. The signal came through on an old frequency. Military. Emergency channels that haven't been used in years, and the colony's regular communications are completely silent. Hannah studied the tactical display. Her small fleet consisted of 12 ships, decent for patrol duty, but nothing special. The Defiant was her flagship, a mid-range cruiser with good shields and standard weapons. The other 11 ships were smaller escorts and supply vessels. Any other human ships in the area? She asked. Negative. The nearest fleet is Admiral Chen's group, but they're 4 days away near the Vega system. The distress signal played again through the speakers. Screams, explosions, and a terrified voice begging for help. Hannah's jaw tightened. Real or not? She couldn't ignore it. All ships set course for Zarian 7. Maximum speed. Red alert status. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Hannah couldn't shake her unease. The timing was too convenient. For months, tensions had been rising with the hegemony, an alliance of 4 ancient alien species who controlled a large portion of the galaxy. They had been pushing for humanity's removal from the Galactic Council, claiming humans were too aggressive and unpredictable. 2 hours later, dropped out of hyperspace near Zarian 7. The planet hung in space like a brown marble at surface, dotted with the lights of mining facilities, but something was wrong. The orbital stations were dark, and debris floated in lazy circles around the planet. Scanning the surface, reported Science Officer Dr. Kong Hoon-woo. I'm detecting life signs, but they're concentrated in the underground bunkers. The surface. Installations have been hit hard. Any sign of the attackers? Hannah asked. Negative. Space appears clear of hostile vessels. That's when the trap sprung. The space around them suddenly filled with massive shapes as hundreds of alien warships dropped out of hyperspace. They appeared in perfect formation, surrounding the human fleet in a sphere of death. The ships were enormous, each one 3 times the size of the Defiant. Their hulls were dark metal covered in weapon ports that glowed with charging energy. By the stars, whispered Kim Dae-yoon. I count over 600 vessels. Admiral Korth's voice boomed. Across all communication channels. His words were translated by the ship's computer, but the contempt in his tone needed no translation. Primitive humans, you have walked into your extinction. Your pathetic species has been judged unworthy of galactic civilization. Surrender. Now, or be vaporized where you float. Hannah felt her crew's eyes on her. They were outnumbered 50-1. Their weapons were no match for hegemony technology.
Ow.
Their shields would last minutes against that firepower. By all logic, they should surrender. But Hannah had been expecting this day for months. Earth Command had been preparing for it too. All ships, defensive positions around the colony, she ordered calmly. Begin evacuation procedures for the surface. Commander, Park Min-ho said quietly, they're jamming our long-range communications. We can't call for help. I know, Hannah replied. She touched a hidden control on her command chair, sending a coded signal to her ships. Begin emergency protocols. Prepare the colonists for evacuation. On the main screen, the hegemony fleet began. Moving closer, their formation was perfect, their movements coordinated. Admiral Korth had planned this for months, maybe years. The mining colony had been bait, and humanity had taken it. But as the massive alien ships closed in, Hannah allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had no idea what they had just walked into. The mining colony wasn't just a mining colony. Evacuation wasn't just an evacuation. The small human fleet wasn't as helpless as it appeared. The hegemony thought they were springing a trap. They had no idea they were walking into one. "Commander," Dr. Kang said quietly from his station, "the package is ready?" Hannah nodded. "Good. Begin charging sequences, but keep the signatures masked. We need to look helpless a little longer." Outside, the ring of alien death continued to close in. Admiral Korath's laughter echoed through the communication channels. In a few hours, he would learn why underestimating humanity was the last mistake many species ever made. The hammer was about to fall. The first energy beams struck the Defiant's shields at exactly 0800 hours. The bridge shook violently as massive bolts of blue plasma crashed into the protective barriers surrounding the human fleet. Emergency lights flickered as power systems strained under the assault. "Shields down to 70%, reported Engineer Choi Gyeon from the engine room. Her voice crackled through the intercom as sparks flew from damaged control panels. "They're testing our defenses, trying to find weak spots." Commander Lee Hannah gripped her command chair as another wave of fire struck their position. Through the main view screen, she could see the hegemony fleet maintaining their perfect formation. They weren't trying to destroy the humans quickly. They were playing with them. "Evacuation status," she asked. Lieutenant Yoon Seokamin checked his display. "First wave of shuttles launched. We're pulling people from the surface installations, but the underground bunkers are harder to reach. The aliens keep targeting our transport ships." On the planet below, 10,000 civilians huddled in reinforced shelters that had been built to protect against mining accidents, not military bombardment. The evacuation shuttles had to make dangerous runs through the crossfire, dodging energy beams that could vaporize them instantly. Dr. Kong Hoon-woo sat quietly in the corner of the bridge, clutching a data pad containing 5 years of research. To the outside observer, he looked like a terrified scientist. In reality, he was one of the most important people in human space. The mining colony had been his laboratory, and the research in his hands could change the course of galactic history. "Doctor, are you all right?" asked Communications Officer Park Min-ho during a brief lull in the bombardment. "Just thinking," Dr. Kang replied softly, "about how long we've been preparing for this moment. The hegemony had been pushing for humanity's expulsion from the Galactic Council for 3 years. They claimed humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable. At council meetings, they would point to human military exercises and say that the new species was a threat to galactic peace. Other alien races began to believe them. Sir Kim Dae-yoon called from the tactical station, "I'm detecting movement in their formation. They're positioning their heavy cruisers for a concentrated attack." Hannah watched the display as the massive alien ships moved like pieces on a chessboard. Admiral Korath was methodical, precise. He wanted to make sure the galaxy witnessed humanity's defeat. Every move was calculated to show that humans were weak, that they didn't belong among the stars. "All ships rotate shield frequencies." "Buy us more time," Hannah ordered. The human vessels began a complex dance around the planet, using their smaller size and greater speed to avoid the worst of the bombardment. But it was only delaying the inevitable. The hegemony ships were larger, more powerful, and there were so many of them. Commander Yoon Seok-min said quietly, "At current rates, our shields will fail in 14 hours. After that, ... He didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen next." Down on the planet's surface, the evacuation continued. Human Marines fought desperate holding actions at the shuttle landing sites while civilians ran for their lives. The aliens seemed content to let some people escape. They wanted survivors. "To tell the galaxy what happened here, another transport down," reported Park Min-ho. The Morning Star took a direct hit during liftoff. No survivors. Hannah closed her eyes for a moment. 60 people had been on that transport, including children. The hegemony was making a statement about what happened to species that didn't know their place. "Keep loading the shuttles," she ordered. "Every life we save is a victory." The bombardment continued through the day. The hegemony fleet fired in waves, giving their weapons time to recharge between attacks. They were in no hurry. They had all the time in the galaxy. During one of the quieter moments, Dr. Kang approached Hannah's command chair. "Commander, I need to tell you something about the research we've been doing here." "I know, Doctor. Earth Command briefed me before we left. Do you really understand what we've accomplished?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "We haven't just built new weapons. We've rewritten the rules of physics itself." Hannah looked at him carefully. "Are you ready?" "The systems are charged and standing by. But Commander, once we use this technology, there's no going back. The galaxy will never be the same." "The galaxy is already changing," Hannah replied. "The question is whether humanity will be part of that change or a footnote in someone else's history." As night fell over the colony, the evacuation entered its final phase. Most of the civilians had been pulled to safety, but hundreds remained, trapped in the deepest bunkers. The hegemony was growing impatient. Their attacks were becoming more focused, more deadly. Sir Kim Dae-yoon announced Admiral Korath is broadcasting on all frequencies. "He's giving us one final chance to surrender." Hannah smiled grimly. "Put him through." Korath's voice filled the bridge, full of arrogance and contempt. "Human Commander, you have fought bravely, but uselessly. Your shields are failing. Your weapons are ineffective. Surrender now, and I will allow your surviving crew to live as slaves." "Counteroffer," Hannah replied calmly. "You leave our space now, and we'll let you keep your ships." Korath's laughter echoed through the communication system, musing. "Very well. Primitive. You have chosen extinction. My fleet will demonstrate why humans do not belong among the civilized species." The line went dead. Around them, the hegemony ships began moving into attack formation. The real battle was about to begin. But hidden in the cargo holds of the human ships, something was powering up. Something the galaxy had never seen before. The communication console on the Defiant beeped with an incoming message. "Lieutenant Park." Minho's face went pale as he read the coded transmission from Earth Command. The message was short, but it made his hands shake. "Commander," he called out, his voice barely steady. "Priority transmission from home. Eyes only." Commander Lee Hannah walked to the secure communication booth at the back of the bridge. The message decoded automatically as she entered her command codes. 3 simple lines appeared on the screen. "Package delivered. Await confirmation." 7 is now active. She stared at the words for a long moment, then allowed herself a small smile. After 3 years of preparation, everything was finally in place. When she returned to the bridge, the hegemony fleet was moving closer. Their massive ships blotted out the stars, their weapon ports glowing with deadly energy. Admiral Korath's voice boomed across all frequencies, no longer bothering to hide his contempt. "Human insects, your pathetic resistance ends now. My science vessels detect your power systems failing. Your shields are at 20%. Accept your fate." Hannah looked around at her crew. They were tired, scared, but still fighting. They had been holding the line for 18 hours, buying time for the evacuation and for something else. Something the aliens couldn't imagine. "All ships," she announced on the fleet channel, "begin emergency protocols. Prepare for surrender procedures." The words hit her bridge crew like a physical blow. Engineer Choi Gyan looked up from her console in shock. "Commander, we're not really surrendering, are we?" "Just follow orders," Hannah replied quietly. "Trust me." Across the fleet, the human ships began powering down their weapons. Their shields flickered and dimmed. To the watching hegemony fleet, it looked like total defeat. Admiral Korath's laughter filled the communication channels. "Finally, the hairless apes show wisdom. Power down your remaining systems and prepare. To be boarded, your crew will make adequate slaves." But Chief Tactical Officer Kim Dae-yeon was watching his instruments carefully. Something was wrong with the readings. "Commander," he whispered urgently, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from our ships. The power cores aren't shutting down. They're redirecting power to something else." "What kind of something else?" Hannah asked, though she already knew. "I don't know. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. It's like the ships are charging up for something massive. The hegemony science vessels were detecting the same anomalies. Their chief scientist, a tall alien with 6 arms and compound eyes, contacted Admiral Korath with growing concern. Admiral, the human vessels are exhibiting impossible energy readings. Their power signatures are increasing, not decreasing. This contradicts their apparent surrender. Korath's image appeared on the main screen, his reptilian face twisted with annoyance. Explain, sir. I'm detecting gravitational fluctuations around their fleet. Minor, but consistent. Our instruments have never recorded anything like this. It's as if they're manipulating space itself. Possible, Korath snarled. No species in the galaxy has mastered gravitational manipulation. The theories exist, but the technology is beyond even our capabilities. Nevertheless, sir, the readings are undeniable. Recommend caution, but Korath was drunk on victory. He'd spent months planning this attack, positioning his fleet, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The human colony had been the perfect bait, and now he was about to eliminate the troublesome species once and for all. Continue the advance, he ordered. Desperate animals will try desperate measures. These readings are probably some crude attempt to mask an escape attempt. Dr. Kong Hunwoo stood up from his corner seat and approached Commander Hannah. His face was calm, but his eyes held an intensity that made the bridge crew nervous. Commander, the systems are fully charged. All ships are reporting ready status. We can begin the demonstration at any time. What demonstration? Asked Park Minho, overhearing the conversation. Dr. Kong smiled grimly. The one we've been preparing for 5 years. The one that will show the galaxy why underestimating humanity is a fatal mistake. The mining colony below hadn't been a simple mining operation. It had been Earth's most classified research facility, hidden in plain sight. While the galaxy's ancient species had spent centuries perfecting their energy weapons and defensive shields, human scientists had been asking different questions. What if physics could be rewritten? What if the fundamental forces of the universe could be controlled? What if humanity's greatest advantage wasn't their technology, but their ability to think differently? All ships? This is Commander Lee, Hannah announced, on all frequencies, including the hegemony channels. What you're about to witness is the result of human ingenuity. While you've perfected your ancient weapons, we asked a simple question. What? If the rules could be changed? Admiral Korath's voice crackled with rage. What are you talking about? Primitive. Your surrender is already accepted. Prepare for boarding or be destroyed. Admiral Hannah replied, her voice deadly calm. You still don't understand. We're not the ones who are surrounded. On her command console, a single red button began to glow. The button that would activate humanity's first deployed gravitic disruptors. The weapons that would rewrite the rules of space combat forever. Around the human fleet, space itself began to ripple. The hegemony's instruments screamed warnings as gravitational fields twisted in ways that shouldn't be possible. Their energy shields, designed to deflect conventional weapons, were completely useless against forces that ignored the normal laws of physics. Impossible, Admiral Korath breathed, watching his instruments in growing horror. No, Hannah replied, her finger hovering over the activation button. Just human. The trap was about to close, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The massive warship Eternal Conquest simply folded in on itself, its hull crushing inward like paper in an invisible fist. There was no explosion, no flash of light, just the terrible sight of a kilometer-long vessel, crumpling into a ball of twisted metal the size of a small house. Admiral. Korath stared at his tactical display in complete shock. What just happened? To the Eternal Conquest? The science officer's voice was shaking. Sir, I'm reading impossible gravitational readings from that area. It's like a black hole appeared and disappeared in seconds. That's impossible. Black holes don't just appear and disappear, I know, sir, but the readings don't lie. On the bridge of the Defiant, Commander Lee Hannah watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. The gravitic disruptor had worked perfectly. 5 years of research, 5 years of secret development, and now the galaxy was about to learn what human ingenuity could accomplish. Target the next ship, she ordered calmly. Dr. Kong Hun-hoon worked at his console, his fingers dancing across controls that no alien scientist could understand. The mathematics behind the gravitic disruptors were beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. While other species had spent centuries perfecting energy weapons, humans had been asking different questions. Charging sequence complete, he reported. Target acquired. The second hegemony ship, the Iron Domination, suffered the same fate as the first. Space twisted around it, gravity fields pulling in directions that violated every known law of physics. The ship's shields were useless. Its armor meant nothing. In 3 seconds, it was gone. All ships, full retreat. Admiral Korath screamed across his fleet channels. Emergency jump to hyperspace. But the gravitic disruptors had another surprise. The twisted space around the hegemony fleet made hyperspace jumps impossible. The ships were trapped in a maze of gravitational anomalies that prevented any escape. Sir, his navigation officer reported, we can't jump. The space distortions are interfering with our hyperspace drives. Then we fight. Korath roared.
West of where why I why my why.
Ships, target the human vessels. Full power to weapons. The hegemony fleet opened fire with everything they had. Hundreds of energy beams lanced through space, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But the human ships were no longer where they appeared to be. The same gravitational fields that trapped the aliens also bent light, creating illusions that made targeting impossible. Sir, Communications Officer Park Min-ho announced, where? Receiving surrender requests from 17 hegemony vessels. Ignore them, Hannah replied coldly. They came here to commit genocide. Let them taste their own medicine. The truth about the mining colony was spreading through intercepted communications. The facility on Zarian 7 hadn't been mining ordinary minerals. It had been harvesting exotic matter, the key component needed for gravitational manipulation. The entire operation had been a cover story. Dr. Kong activated another disruptor. This time, instead of crushing a single ship, he created a gravitational wave that rippled through an entire formation. 12 hegemony vessels were caught in the wave, their hulls torn apart as space itself twisted around them. How is this possible? Admiral Korath demanded. Our scientists said gravitational manipulation was impossible. Your scientists were wrong, came Commander Hannah's voice over the communication channel. You spent so long perfecting old technology that you forgot to ask new questions. The hegemony had made a fatal error. They had assumed that because they couldn't master gravitational forces, no one could. They had built their entire military strategy around energy weapons and defensive shields. Now they were facing an enemy that ignored both. Commander, Dr. Kong said quietly, we have enough power for one more large-scale demonstration. We show them what the main weapon can do. Hannah looked at the tactical display. The hegemony fleet was already broken, their formation scattered. Hundreds of ships were trying to flee, but the gravitational fields kept them trapped. It was like watching fish in a net. Do it, she ordered. Dr. Kong's hands moved across his console, inputting commands that would have seemed like magic too. Any alien scientist? The main gravitic disruptor began to charge, drawing power from all 12 human ships. The energy requirements were enormous, but the effect would be unforgettable. Space itself began to ripple in a sphere around the hegemony fleet. Not the small, localized distortions they had been using, but a massive gravitational field that encompassed the entire battle area. The aliens watched in horror as their instruments went crazy, detecting forces that shouldn't exist. Gravitational. Cascade initiated, Dr. Kang announced. The field will collapse in 30 seconds. All hegemony vessels, Hannah broadcast on all frequencies. You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally. After that, you will share the fate of your admiral. Response was immediate. Surrender signals flooded the communication channels. As hundreds of alien ships powered down their weapons, they had seen what the human weapons could do, and they wanted no part of it. Admiral Korath's voice cut through the chaos. This is impossible. You're violating the laws of physics. Oh. Hannah replied calmly. We're rewriting them. That's what happens when you underestimate a species that refuses to accept limitations. The gravitational field continued to build, space bending in ways that hurt to look at. The few hegemony ships that hadn't surrendered were caught in forces. Beyond their understanding, welcome to the future, Hannah announced. Humanity's future. The field collapsed, and with it, the last of the hegemony's resistance. The space around the hegemony fleet suddenly erupted in blinding flashes of light. Dozens of human ships appeared out of nowhere, their hulls shimmering as advanced cloaking systems powered down. The aliens had been so focused on the 12 ships, they could see that they never noticed the 40 ships they couldn't. Admiral. Korath's tactical display went insane with new contacts. Where did they come from? He screamed at his sensor officer. Sir, they were there the whole time. Our sensors couldn't detect them. It's like they were invisible. Commander Lee Hannah smiled as she watched the alien fleet's formation collapse into chaos. The trapped hegemony ships were now completely surrounded by human vessels, each one equipped with the new gravitational weapons. The hunters had become the hunted. All ships, commence Operation Hammer, she announced on the fleet channel. The human vessels moved with perfect coordination, like a pack of wolves closing in on their prey. Each ship targeted a different section of the hegemony fleet, their gravitic disruptors charging with deadly purpose. The aliens' numerical advantage meant nothing when they couldn't fight back. Sir, reported Chief Tactical Officer Kim Dae-yoon, we're detecting massive power buildups from the stealth ships. They're preparing to fire simultaneously. The real scope of Earth's plan was becoming clear. The mining colony had been bait, but not in the way anyone expected. The humans hadn't been trapped by the hegemony attack. They had been gathering intelligence, studying alien tactics, recording every move the enemy made. Every retreat had been planned. Every defensive position had been calculated. The small human fleet had been feeding data to Earth Command, providing targeting information for the real assault force that had been hiding in the shadows. Impossible, Admiral Korath muttered, watching his screens as more human ships appeared. We had complete sensor coverage of this system. Not anymore, came a new voice over the communication channel. Admiral Park Jin-soo, commander of the human stealth fleet, introduced himself with deadly politeness. Hello, Admiral Korath. We've been watching you for quite some time. The hegemony ships tried to reform their battle lines, but the gravitational fields made coordinated movement impossible. Ships that tried to group together found themselves pulled apart by invisible forces. Their energy shields, designed to protect against conventional weapons, were useless against attacks that ignored the normal laws of physics. All ships fire at will, Admiral Park ordered. The human fleet opened fire with their gravitic disruptors. Space twisted and warped as dozens of gravitational fields activated simultaneously. The effect was devastating. Hegemony ships began, imploding one after another, their hulls crushed by forces they couldn't understand or defend against. Retreat. Full retreat. Admiral Korath ordered, but his ships couldn't move. The gravitational maze created by the human weapons had turned the battlefield into a trap. Every direction led to more twisted space, more impossible forces. Dr. Kong Hoon-hwa monitored the weapons from his position on the Defiant. The gravitic disruptors were performing better than expected. Each shot created a localized gravitational anomaly that lasted for several minutes, making entire sections of space impassable. Commander, he reported, we're creating a permanent distortion field. The hegemony fleet is completely trapped. Good, Hannah replied. Let them see what happens when they underestimate humanity. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. The mighty hegemony fleet, which had come to destroy humanity's presence in the galaxy, was reduced to scattered survivors fleeing toward the system's edge. Only a few dozen ships escaped the gravitational maze, and they carried a message that would change galactic politics forever. "Sir, Communications Officer," Park Minho announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. Emergency session called. All member species to attend." "Put it through," Hannah ordered. The hologram of Council Chairman Vextar appeared on the bridge. The elderly alien's face was grave as he spoke. "Commander Lee, the Council demands an immediate explanation for the weapons you have deployed. The hegemony survivors claim you have violated the fundamental laws of physics." "We haven't violated anything," Hannah replied calmly. "We simply refused to accept limitations that others assumed were absolute. While the galaxy perfected existing technologies, we asked different questions." "What questions?" Chairman Vextar asked. "What if physics could be rewritten? What if the rules of the universe were suggestions rather than laws? What if humanity's greatest strength wasn't following established patterns but breaking them entirely?" The council session that followed was broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from hundreds of species watched as Commander Hannah explained humanity's new technology. The gravitic disruptors weren't just weapons. They were proof that human thinking was fundamentally different from every other species in the galaxy. For centuries, Hannah addressed the council. "You have perfected energy weapons, improved your shields, built bigger ships. You followed a path that seemed logical. But humans asked a different question. What if there was a better way?" Admiral Korath, attending the session from his damaged flagship, tried to protest. "They're dangerous, unpredictable. They must be stopped." "By whom?" Hannah asked quietly. "You brought 600 ships to destroy 12. You failed. The galaxy now knows that humanity doesn't just adapt to existing rules. We write new ones." The final transmission came from Earth's orbital shipyards. The images showed hundreds of new vessels under construction, each one equipped with gravitational manipulation technology. The message was clear. Humanity was ready to defend itself against anyone who threatened their people. The hegemony war was over before it truly began. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would reshape interstellar politics for generations too. Come, never underestimate a species that refuses to accept the word impossible. Humanity had dropped the hammer, and the universe would never be the same.